Welcome,
Yeah,
guys.
we're starting. Welcome, guys.
So this is our first podcast. We've never done this before.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun.
Hmm.
So, how did this all start?
Leah, let's talk about how we even got here. So,
It really, it is beyond movement.
yeah. From when it first started, when I first started training, when I first started the gym. When I first started training, I was working in commercial gym, and at the time I was doing weightlifting, and a friend came up to me and told me to try out bodyweight training. He had an injury, so he was recommended to do bodyweight training through his doctor, and then I was like, yeah, dude, if I'm going to do something, I'll do it 100%. So I dropped the weights for like 6 months. I gave myself 6 months and changed my entire life. And I've never even
What was the
back.
reason, though? Like, why bodyweight training? What was the thing that made you drop weights?
At the start, it was just to give it a shot. And
But why drop everything for 6 months to commit to bodyweight training?
because I've never committed to it before. And interesting thing about my own training is I did a lot of body weight anyway, and I believed in like being able to hold your own weights and stuff like that first. So it was why it really interests me, because it was like, oh, I'm already sort of doing that, and I was doing a lot of that with my clients as well, and so yeah, it was really interesting. But I just completely fell in love with training again, because I got a little bit bored.
Of weight training.
Yeah, it was the same thing, just add a little bit of weight, add a bit more weight. It's the same thing, like years and years later, I was doing the same shit. Same thing. So...
That was the same for me. See, I was obsessed with weight training, heavy lifting. Like, I was, for me, with all my clients, I was all about going heavy. So if you came on and trained with me, it's like, if you didn't want to go heavy, I'm not your trainer.
Yeah.
And so for me, that the switch came with COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, the coming out of lockdown, I think trying to go back into weights, and then you gain and then you lose.
Yes.
I think that was the big switch for me. I was like, I can't do this. And I kind of tried out calisthenics. I was like YouTubing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, during lockdown, I was doing that thing, trying to figure it out myself, trying to do handstands against the wall, trying to learn myself.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I think when we came out, November 2020, I was like, that's it.
And that's when you first started training.
Yeah, and that's when,
movement.
it was crazy. I think
still
it was all meant
remember
to be.
Yeah, I remember meeting you with the mask and all that stuff. And then look how far you've come now. It's incredible.
Yeah, a year and 7 months.
And look at how much you can really achieve.
Exactly.
You know, and it takes time. And a lot of people, I think, when they sort of first look at someone who's training bodyweight, I can't do that. But if you take that step back and go, well, hang on, how long has this person been training for, first of all? Because when everyone starts, everyone's the same. And everyone should go through foundations and basics anyway. So when you first start, it's just like, was it intimidating for you? I mean, I didn't have this. No one was doing this. And we didn't have Instagram. We didn't have...
Yeah.
So when I first started doing this, all I knew was myself, right? So it was like... I had books. I'd bought books and all this stuff. There was a couple of YouTube channels. Artem was already on YouTube, Artem Morozov. And, it was really not big. So you couldn't just find drills or anything like that. Yuri had some YouTube videos, one-arm handstands. I was like, this is crazy. These people are crazy. Insane. I was so happy just with like a small handstand holds. And gymnastics environment. It was very different as well.
No, I think for me, what I loved was like, with your style, less is best. Like, I don't need anything. And in my mind, I was like, what if we go back into lockdown?
Yeah.
And so coming here, it's like, okay, learn the right way. And with you, I think the difference is there is a structure, and it's not just jumping or skipping steps, or we're learning the basics and the foundations, and you push that. And so having that discipline that you instill in your training, I think, is key. And you can notice it in your students. So the first thing I noticed, I stalked you obviously on social media. I'm like, okay, this is amazing, right? This guy knows what he's doing, and you see the results in the students. And so I'm like, fantastic. I'm like, this is the place. Because when I joined full membership, and Shaz was like,
yeah, that's right.
Shaz was like, did you, was that a mistake? Like,
yeah, even she even told me, I remember the day, she was like, I think she made a mistake. She signed up for the membership. She hasn't even done a trial. And I said, oh, well, you need to sort that out. I still remember the conversation. I was like, she might have made a mistake. Maybe she's not meant to be here. Like, she didn't mean to do that. But I remember you said to her, she called you and you...
I was like, yeah. I signed up.
You signed up.
I know what I want.
Because you knew what you want.
Yeah.
From day one.
Yeah.
And I remember you came into Beyond Movement. You started learning the basics. I don't think you were in all my classes to start.
Yeah.
And you were in the beginner classes. And then you committed through the training. You committed to the training through the continuous lockdowns after that one. And the results started really coming.
Like, I believe in consistency. Wow. Plus, I was like, I went from paying like $500 for a full year membership to $80 a week. In my mind, financial, like, okay, how can I get the most out of the 80? So I was like, I'm going to go to every single class.
Every single class, that's it, yes. Every single class.
So I'm like, I feel better about paying $80 a week.
Yeah, because you get
the most out of it. And that's what I did, and I stayed committed. Actually, I've done the 6 days a week or 5-6 days since then, and I think that's why I've progressed so much, the consistency. And so I think there's a lot of like important values you can learn from training. I think that's where from my perspective, I want to share more about there's so much more to bodyweight training than
just the training.
Than just the training, like what you get from it and how you take what you learn, like life lessons from here, you take to your work environment, you take to your relationships, the mindset, the self-awareness. I think that's what I want to bring more awareness to. Yeah,
and that's great.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I always talk about.
I want more people to do this. Like I came from weight training, and again, it was the same. It was really boring. When I thought about it, I'm like, all I'm doing is just push and pull.
Yeah, literally.
Right, and then you're increasing weights. You're not really developing much skills or understanding of yourself. You're just doing. Yeah,
you're just doing. There's lack of learning. Whereas bodyweight training is very confronting because it points out everything that's wrong with your body. But if you think about why do we train? What's the reason for training? What's the reason why we get up and train? It is to actually, if you go back to why we really started, it's to be an athlete or to be a high-level athlete or to be, more efficient in your body. So we're not addressing a lot of those issues when we're actually going to train. We're just doing the things we're just going through the roles of doing this, doing that, doing that machine, get bigger muscles. Get bigger why? What's the reason? Like, what are you achieving out of getting bigger? If that's your goal, great. But it's not as confronting as your thoracic is tight, your internal rotation on your hip is tight. All these things. So you just don't want to get too technical, but you sort of get confronted with a lot of issues with yourself, and then you have to confront those issues, and at the same time you have to work hard because it doesn't just come naturally. So you're finding your biggest weaknesses, and that's a lot to deal with for a lot of people, but it forces you to do it because you can't progress unless you fix your problems. You can't progress to a new progression unless you train the one before and you master it, and then you move forward, then you master it. And what's kind of cool is it's kind of like a game. You unlock something and then you go to the next progression and then you master it, and then but the progression, the next one, it won't allow you to do it until you master the one before. You can't just start doing a progression that you're not ready for. The body just won't allow it.
And the biggest is flexibility that I've noticed. Right?
Yeah, totally.
I think a lot of people, like, if you look at real life, you work, let's just say most people work in an office job. They're sitting most of the day. And that's what you're addressing. You're going to notice some, like, jammed up hips, all these issues that you might not be aware of.
Yeah.
And you can get away with it doing weight training. right?
Yeah, you can get away with it easy.
Away with like injuries and just issues in weight training, but when you come here, it all surfaces. And like you said, like you can't progress until you address some blockages, like mobility issues, for example. And I think that's the most exciting part. Like I've progressed more in terms of my body and strength in weight training than I did doing years of weight training.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
And so I'm probably more elite in terms of as an athlete or even just an individual, like physically and health-wise than before. Even as a personal trainer, I'm like, holy crap, it woke me up and I was like, what have I been doing? I'm teaching people weight training and I'm like, I'm probably not even noticing a lot of the issues. Whereas weight training can naturally address those.
Yeah.
And the biggest is mobility, flexibility, and we see that as well here.
Yeah, and mindset as well is such a big thing. Like building a good relationship with yourself and your body and yourself and your mind and the way you approach your training, it's a crucial element and something that I find a lot of beginners struggle with because they comparing themselves to others, comparing themselves to even just themselves. But when you fall in love with the training, you fall in love with yourself more and you appreciate yourself more. And I still have times where I do something and I'm looking at the video and I have this moment and I'm like, if I record myself and I have this moment and I'm like, oh wow, I'm actually doing that with my body and the floor. That's it. Take everything away from me. No one can take that from me. I can't believe my body can actually do that. And you fall in love with your body and what it can achieve in a deep level. I think it's quite a deep level. I don't know how to explain how to find that, but through the training, you naturally find it yourself. And I find you found it. Yeah. I found it. A lot of other students have found that love and passion for their training. It's not even about what you can do. It's about the relationship with yourself when you're approaching the training, which is a hard one to explain, but...
And I think it's the mindset is also key in terms of progression, right? Slowing down, sometimes having more patience, more kindness to yourself. I think that is key. Yeah. When I first started, handstands is very frustrating. You're constantly failing.
Yeah, so you're always
like you're just attempting to go up, but it's essentially like you're it's like trying to do 10,000 attempts.
Yeah, handstand is
and it's frustrating. You're like, when am I gonna get this? And you have to. I think in the journey, and you teach this as well. It's like you have to just keep getting back up and have that patience. It will come, but just put in the work and again the consistency. But definitely the mindset. I've learned through handstands to, number one, be kind to myself in the process and then reminding myself it will come.
Yes.
But just to calm my mind, the act of actually calming my mind, not getting frustrated, has actually helped me progress.
Yes.
I remember like the moment I realized it, and it was actually during training. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm getting so frustrated. I'm being really hard on myself. It's like the more I push to try and get it, the harder it actually was.
Yeah. And
so that's another side that no one talks about, I think, with bodyweight training. That's the side I want to raise more awareness. Actually, the mindset and how you go into the training is actually crucial to your progression. And I think you teach that really well here. I know it's kind of hard to, how do you teach that? But it actually comes also in the culture of Beyond Movement and how the supportive environment, the encouragement, but also everyone works hard here. And you see it. So you do see people's frustration, whatever level, the advanced or even the beginners. But there's an understanding. And I think that's the brilliant part about Beyond Movement. It's the culture, the environment that instills that as well. So people naturally learn that mindset over time.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, because it really is that, I see all the time people like, I want a handstand, and they have this in, like, I don't know, it's some expectation of themselves to be at a certain level, or there's comparing or whatever it is. They just need to slow down. A lot of the time I can see them just, up and down, and just slow down the mind. It gives you a chance to focus, and you can't focus if your mind is rushing. Handstand forces you to do that. Not all handstand training is going to force you to do that, but that's definitely some big thing that I teach. And you can see it, like you said, all the students have this understanding. It's almost like a mutual respect for each other. When you see somebody struggling, you've struggled there, you've been there before, you know what they're going through, and you learning even through them. Like, you're looking at them and you're like, that was me. And you look at how far you've come mentally from there. It's not a physical thing, it's a mental thing. And you're like, ooh, this is interesting. And that's where that support and help is there, because that person has an understanding that you've been there. You know what it's like. And you inspire them. A lot of people, like, I can just use you as an example because it's true. There's a lot of people come very inspired by, oh, Gianni is so strong. Let's rewind, but they never saw the journey, right? They never saw the road. And you made a comment about everyone works hard and the hours got to be put in as well. You've got to put in those hours too.
There's no shortcuts.
There's no shortcuts. So it was like, how did I get good at kicking up to handstand? Well,
doing the same thing.
Yeah, I did kick up to handstand 10,000 times.
Yeah.
More than that. So, when people like, I still haven't got it yet, when they've tried like a couple of times, we've got some discovering to do.
Oh, a lot of discovering. Like planche. Oh, that takes forever.
Yeah, the planche is like, and that's another one as well, very confronting. Very little reward, very little like instant satisfaction as well. So you're not going to get instant satisfaction.
It's like 6 months and you're moving this much. You're like, what the heck?
Your elbow's just that more locked. It's perfect. It's just like, okay, these are small little things that you're really like digesting this one skill or this particular movement that you're trying to get. And it's not something that you're just going to get like that.
Yeah, but
without the hard work.
If you break down the journey, actually, you're actually learning to be more present and to notice the smaller things. Like, your progression is so small, but you have to notice how far you've come and remind yourself, like, you might have been here, but then 2 months later, you're here. And that's so small, right?
Yep.
So small. And so I think you also learn to bring that into your life. I think in relationships at work, you're more present. You notice the little things, and every day you wake up more alive. Like, it's crazy how many people are so on autopilot. And again, it's like weight training. You just end up doing. Like, you can do and not notice what's happening to your body and get away with it and feel like you're progressing, and it's fake, right? And so you're living this life. Like, are you really alive? And I think that's the biggest thing I found. Like, every day I'm like, holy crap, I'm noticing these little things.
Yeah. And
it's amazing. I'm noticing, again, like you said, like, how far I've come with the consistency. But back to that, like, I also think it's your style as a coach. Like, you're tell it like it is. Like, you don't sugarcoat.
I do say how it is. I know sometimes it's a very little bit direct, but
I think it's necessary. I think like, I learned this as a coach, the hug and slap rule. It's like, you can only hug a person so much, but then you got to slap them, tell them the truth. And so I think in this world, there's too much hugging. Even as kids, you're like, oh, it's okay. Right? And we're taught that. Like,
of course.
Everyone wants that encouragement and recognition, but in real life, when you look at real life, especially for kids coming out of uni, it's not the same. When you come out, you're not going to get the claps.
This is life, This is it. You're not going to get clapped for every little thing you do.
Like, I think it's so crucial, because when it's confronting for a lot of students when they come in, they're like, oh, I'm not going to get the claps. I'm not going to get the praise for my little progression here. And so I think that's also key in why people become more humble as they progress coming into training at Beyond Movement. They start to realize, oh, I really got to put in the work. And there's no instant gratification.
Definitely
It's
not.
intense.
Yeah,
Not
it's
everyone
intense.
laughs because it's mentally, like you said, like as we come into winter, the weak-minded drop.
Yeah, and I say it how it is, right?
It's
like,
true.
how else do I say it? I'm like, well, okay, I've been in this industry for 12 years, and there's no other way to put it.
And it's true.
Oh, it's cold in the morning. It's cold for me. It's cold for you. But the reason why my planche is where it is, or my hand balance is where it is because on those cold mornings I still rocked up. Rocking up and doing the work.
Yeah.
That's what makes you tough-minded. That's what makes you tough in your training, your approach, and yeah, it's the truth. And I think that people need to hear the truth more.
Yeah, I agree too.
It's I want more people to do this type of training. It's changed my life. It's changed your life. And it can change a lot more lives. But it's that. I think in today's society, this is. There's a change in society, and you've seen it. I've seen it. I'm sure we all see it. And so you have social media, which gives you that instant gratification, and people are starting to rely on that for their happiness. And if you take yourself back 10 years when you first started training, we didn't have any of that, so we're quite lucky. What made you fall in love with training initially? And I'm sure it would have been that feeling of like, no one was running around saying, awesome, Gian, you're so good. It was like you did a workout at home, I'm sure, and you felt really good. Or it could have been just for a run. It could have been anything. But it's that feeling that you get that makes you feel good. That's the feeling that you need to focus on, without any outside whatever. I don't
Validation.
know. Validation.
Yeah.
You know.
But what makes it easy here is you know everyone else is in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you're on this journey, individual journey, and it's all personalized. You can't compare. But here, you know, everyone's on the same journey as well.
Yeah.
They're waking up, and it inspires you to just come back. Like, you've got the rest of the group here at Beyond Movement doing the same. And yes, it's hard, but they're committed to. It's like, if they can do it, why can't I?
You can do it too.
Yeah, and so it's that as well, which is amazing. And you know, like you said, like during lockdown, I think without you, honestly, I don't think I would have survived lockdown and all COVID. Like the fact that you continued online training, and you still taught the disciplines, and you still set the culture of the environment, although on Teams, not Teams. Oh my god. Work life on Zoom.
Zoom. Yeah, that's right. That's what we used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it worked, and I still progressed so much with my handstands and training during lockdown. And it just proves actually, like, again, body weight training, you can do it anywhere. You actually don't need to come to the gym. Like, you can do it at home and still be taught the right skills, the right mindset. And I just thought that was brilliant. I think I'm so committed to just sharing about bodyweight training and Beyond Movement because it really like saved my life during lockdown. I don't think I would have survived. And to come out on the other side feeling amazing, not only physically but mentally and emotionally, all of it, I think was for me the most valuable. And I think more people need to understand how much more, like what bodyweight training is. It's not just cool moves.
Cool skills and moves, right? It's so
more
deep.
like this is your life.
Yeah.
You could change your life and how you show up to life.
Yes.
And your happiness. I think at the end of the day, for me, it's you're reaching a point of self-awareness and realizing what makes you happy. It changes your decisions in your life. What you decide to do. Whether you decide to quit the job you hate but you keep going back to. All these things, it actually makes you question
your whole life.
Yeah, because you're much more present.
Yes.
And you're aware of your body and what you want and what you can achieve.
Yes.
So I think it really connects you back to who you really are, which I think a lot of people lose in in life, just in general.
And that's normal and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's my passion. I'm excited to share more. There's so much to bodyweight training than what you see on Instagram. It's crazy.
It's so good.
Not enough, I honestly think not enough people are talking about the benefits that
Yeah, like even we don't. We don't even do that.
Yeah, we just talk about training.
We talk about training. We talk about it in here, but I don't think we ever like go out and really sort of share that enough. Which is why we're even here doing this like we're doing right now. Because it's probably like 80% of the training. 80% of the benefit, I'd say, even more, is here.
In the mind.
In the mind.
Yeah.
The things it teaches you, the life lessons it teaches you is incredible. And it's really hard to sort of to tell people that's what they want or that's what they need.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that they don't have that connection or they don't have that want or need yet. But through the training and through learning about yourself and learning about the training and building patience with yourself, those things happen. And we can only share that as much as possible, right? So, sharing your story, sharing my story. We've got big stories too. It even gets us to that point, and then there's the whole journey, which is still always, it's a forever journey, right? When I'm 90, I should be still doing this.
I'll probably be doing this.
I don't see myself doing anything else because everything that I am doing makes my body feel better. So I feel like I'd have to do it more as I'm older because it's more important.
And it's realizing that you actually can.
Yeah, there's no age limit. Like zero age limit.
Because you're actually using your whole body, all your muscles. Whereas when you're in weight training, there's a lot of muscles that are switched off that you overlook. And that's the biggest difference coming, for me, again, like from weight training to body weight training. I'm like, how can I not do this simple move?
Yeah.
When I've been lifting like 50 kilo, like dumbbell presses and 100 kilo, double my weight, like deadlifts. And I'm like, this simple move.
Yeah.
What is going on? It's a shock.
It's a shock. And it's just like, what's going on? And I've been into a commercial gym after training bodyweight before. And I'm like, I'm going to do like a weight session with a friend. And even just my approach in the commercial gym was totally different.
You're much stronger.
So I grab a small weight. I was very still in my body, and I was doing a movement. I was isolating a muscle. That's why weights are good. If you do want to isolate a muscle, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
How much do we lift heavy weights in the gym here at Beyond Movement?
Nothing.
We've got small dumbbells, and if we're doing something, we're using very small dumbbells because our approach is we're not just trying to smash the weight and get heavy weight because there's no ego, there's nothing to prove. We are trying to have our intention for the movement is to isolate that muscle or something, but everything's connected. And the body's still, and everything's on, because you're so used to turning everything on in everything you do. I mean, when you handstand, it's not like one thing's on.
Everything's got to be on.
The whole body is tense. The whole body is engaged. You have to.
You have to, yeah.
So it sort of becomes like your approach in everything. And if you do a little bit of weights, which is fine, or you do it as accessory work.
You can incorporate. And it's
accessory
not like you
work
have
is
to
perfect,
just do body weight training. Anyone can start.
Anyone can start. I think there's so many people athletes, fighters, they love to move really well. So I find they really naturally got this really good approach to bodyweight training because they've got this disciplined mindset, and martial artists and things that they've got that discipline and they understand doing the same thing again, which is really interesting. But any athlete, whether it be a football player, whether it be a weightlifter, bodyweight training, to be incorporated into that training, I think builds a deeper understanding of themselves regardless, because you have to hold yourself in anything you do. So no matter what you do, if you're a swimmer, you have to hold yourself. You've got yourself in your own body. You have to hold yourself in some sort of way. And bodyweight training just teaches you how to hold yourself in many different positions, and resistance comes from all different sides of the body.
And it just shows anyone
Really, anyone
can be an athlete.
Anyone.
And I think we got to break all these stereotypes, like, in labels.
Yeah, like...
I think a lot of people don't because they're like, oh, I'm not like you. I just, like...
Yeah, I can't
like,
do that sort of stuff. They see the end result.
And so I think we really want to just open the light, like, you got to start. Yeah, wherever you're at, I think it's important to just start moving and becoming more aware. And it really, like, again, with the whole training, you got to start baby steps.
Yeah, don't get veered off by what these people are doing, this person's doing, that person's doing. You know, I see that sometimes, like, oh, they're doing that, so, you know, I should be doing that, and or here's a good, they're changing things. Trust the process, trust the coaching, I think trust the teachings. You know, sometimes you might not understand something, but keep going. Keep going, keep trying and see, and just feel that feeling that when you are trying, just those emotions, those feelings, that failure in a way. It's okay to say you fail. Everything comes from failure.
But you learned.
As
long as you're noticing.
Yeah, that's important.
Like your training, you always say, like, every time you finish a set, you're always thinking about what was on, what could I improve, what did I do?
Yeah.
And not enough people do that. I think it takes practice to actually get to that point where you're finishing a set or you finish doing something, you reflect on what you've done. And if you think about life, you reflect on what you've done or the day. I think, again, like, the lessons you learn and the transferable.
Yes.
Like, yeah, it's just crazy. So I think
what we do is talk about more people's stories. If I think about...
Stories are great.
Stories are good. We've got some pretty interesting stories ourselves, which we'll talk one day with our really... we can go deep into our stories and be pretty full on. But there's a lot of members here, like at Beyond Movement. And
all different ages, right?
All different ages. We've got, like, people who are over the age of 60. I think... over 60s, over 50s, over 40s, over 30s. This is like majority of the students.
Yeah, majorities. 30s. Surprisingly.
30s is the biggest one. That's really interesting. Yeah. I think we've all hit a point where we've done this. We've done the weight training. We've done this. We've tried all of it. We're in a really good generation. We've had access to a lot of type of training, which has been quite fortunate. But also had a lot of that time for self-discovery when we were younger as well. So there's this self-discovery that we had a really good opportunity to have without any influence, because without too much influence on the outside world, because of our limited access to the internet and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, most people between the age of 30 to 40, got some 20-year-olds older, later 20s, some young people as well. I guess everyone. We've got 14-year-olds that train at Beyond Movement as well. So from 14 to up to 70. So I've got 67 students, 68. So, you know, it really just goes to show, like,
and
you know...
all working in different backgrounds. And so it's anyone, I think.
Yeah, we've got people working in finance, we've got engineers, we've got accountants, we've got...
Even trainers.
Trainers, lots of trainers. We've got ambulance, paramedics. Everyone's got a different background. Everyone's got, you know, we've got people who do night shifts. We've got people who work in hospitals. We've got, you know, just people who work in an office, people who work from home, people who are trainers, people who are overseas, interstate. It's, at the end of the day, it's for everyone. I think that's, like, really special.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really special. And everyone's attitude, they're here to learn about themselves and they're here to improve themselves. And that mindset it changes, and I watch the change, and that's pretty cool. No one has walked in here someone's walked in here able to do a handstand, but most, if not 95%, 98% of the people you see couldn't do a handstand on the wall. And so when new person comes in, they're like, oh wow, look at that, if I could only just do that, I'd be happy. Well, the truth is, you wouldn't even be happy when you get to that, because that person was there too.
Level.
And you've been there, you've been there, you've been on the wall, and you're like, wow, imagine holding it. I'd be pretty happy with that. Okay, so now you're holding, and you're like, oh, there's all these other things, and it never stops. It never stops.
And that's like life. It's all a journey. You never get to that end destination. There's always more, and there's always, the next level.
Yeah,
more
that's
learning
right.
about yourself, more progression. I think that's the most rewarding part, because it's a long journey. You learn to appreciate the little things.
Yes.
And that's where I think if we can shed more light on that, I think again, tying back to just your individual self and that happiness, I think that's key. If we can help people just be happy.
Be happy with where you're at. Like, be happy you woke up this morning. Like, you woke up this morning, life is amazing. If I was to say this is your last day on earth, what would you do? I would just still drain.
I would too.
I'm still doing what I'm doing.
I feel like we're at the same place. And I think it, again, like going back to my journey here, I feel like I've reached a place where I'm just happy. Like, yes, we've done the work. Like, there's no doubt about it. It doesn't just come.
And there's those moments of frustration. Of course, but not majority of the training. You step out of your training, and you take a look back at the floor, and you're like, okay, it's done. Look at what I've learned from that today, and look how I feel. It's like that's that happiness. It's like that's enough. You've worked hard. You've put in all your work. You've made sacrifices. You've put in the work. If you're not putting in the work, I think it's a very different...
Huge difference.
You're not going to find that happiness if you're not putting in the work. And the putting in the work, that discipline, the self-sacrifice, all that sort of stuff gets you that happiness, even though it doesn't feel like it. It's almost like at the time when you're doing it, or if you get up early and you're tired and you're like, I just want to sleep. But you're not. You get up, you do it. How do you feel after that? And then it's like, okay, if today was my last day, well, I did something for me.
It's the small things.
It's the really small things. Yeah, it's I think you reach a point where in your training you find this happiness. It's really interesting.
Just that right there just highlights how much more there is to bodyweight training than just the training. Like we've already touched on in this podcast, like the self-awareness.
Yes.
The self-discovery, the journey, the frustrations, all of it, it's an up and down. And as you go through being more present, like it literally is how you show up to life. It trains you to show up to life just being present and loving life and appreciating the small things. And I think that's what I want to show more of.
Yeah, 100%.
Because at the end of the day, this is your life, and I see a lot of people who are unhappy. They don't talk about it. And again, like you said, like how your style of coaching, tell it like it is. Let's start to talk about the things that people aren't talking about. I think let's talk about the truth.
Yeah.
No bullshit. I think it's key. It's like, guys, if you're not happy, let's address it.
Yeah.
If you're not happy with your body, what's going on? Sometimes what's happening with your body is also correlated to what's happening in your mind.
Yeah,
why you can't push through training is because of your mind.
Yeah.
And how you do anything is how you do everything. And so if we can
I love that saying.
Start with, let's just say, like, the environment you're a part of. Who you hang around with is who you become. Right? That's why most people, when they come to Beyond Movement and they start training consistently, you become like everyone else. And again, you start to take on the culture that's set here.
Yeah.
The disciplines, all the values that you instill. it's crazy. You start to notice this huge difference, and you see it especially in new students that come in.
Yeah.
You see their change, and that's like you would see it the most.
Yeah.
But for other students around here, like if you do notice, it's actually quite amazing to watch that journey.
Yeah.
And so I think, I'm excited to start to share more.
Yeah.
Over like from now on, just having that conversation. I'd love to bring more people on board, especially other students or even guests, like other bodyweight trainers that
coaches and some friends and stuff like that. So
and you hear it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Right now you're hearing it from just Jason and I, but there's so many stories out there.
There's so many stories out there.
It'll open up your eyes to what's more.
It's quite deep stuff. It's pretty exciting.
We get pretty deep.
Yeah, we get pretty deep. Sometimes I get a little bit too deep, but I think it's just the years of practice, the years of teaching. Teaching has taught me a lot about a lot. Yeah, a lot on a lot of levels. Even my own training through teaching has taught me a lot about my own training as well. There's like years and years of learning, and still so much for me to learn.
It never ends.
Because everybody that walks in the door has a different story, so I have something to learn from everyone.
That's it.
Everyone has a different story. Everyone has their own footpath that they've walked on. No one understands that, and learning about them, where they've come from, where they are. It's not just about this issue and that issue and you got to fix this and that. It's like, let's talk about why. Like, why are we here? There's always a reason. Why are we standing here today where we are? And what got us here? Like, that's what interests me so much with everyone. And if you want to make a really deep change in someone's life, you need to get down to that.
I love it. It's the questions.
It's the question. You're really good at it. Like you're really good. You're really good at asking the right questions. You've even done it with me, which is awesome. Ask me those questions about myself, and it's like, oh, this is good. I like this. This is interesting.
Yeah, and I learned that from Tony. I always remember his quote. It's like, if you learn to ask better questions, you're going to get better answers.
Yeah.
And so that's key, I think. And then, like I said, it's how you approach training, and for your clients, it's asking them why. So I love that. I think you're already onto it. But yes, there's always a next level when we can always ask better questions. So we're going to start sharing these questions and share them. And reflection, I think, is key. And start to think.
I think we can, put in questions if the guys want to add. So there's we'll find a way, guys. This is our first podcast.
We're going to figure out how to do
this is our first part. Well, we're doers. So we just do. That's what we do. So we're just doers, and we just do stuff. So that's pretty much my approach in life. But
same.
So we'll send a link. You can ask some voice message questions. I think there's a way to be able to do this.
Any questions or topics? I think.
Topics, questions.
We have a lot to talk about.
There's so
much to talk about. But if there's anything specific,
we're committed to doing this every week. We're committed to being here every week and doing it. So we've made that commitment. It didn't just we didn't just get here.
No. There's so much more.
Yeah, there's so
much more. We're really
excited. Yeah, it's so exciting. And so, this is going to be a good start to I don't know, the chat. The good start to the podcast.
Honestly,
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what
happens. I don't know. We'll see. You guys might think is a whole bunch of chit chat.
We just want more conversations, really.
More conversations.
At the end of the day, it's just more people talking about the benefits and really just being present and just talking about what's really important.
And these conversations need to happen, and they need to happen. We have them a lot, but I think these conversations need to happen.
Involved.
Happen out there and really put it out there, because we've got the tools. It's to be able to do that, so we can change more lives by doing that.
That ripple effect. That's it.
Those changes that we've had in our life. Everyone can have this. Everyone can have this happiness that we feel. I feel it. I feel like you feel it. We feel it. We people can have this. You guys can have this. You can have this. Anyone can have this. I think
it's just teaching people that you are in control.
Yeah.
Of your life, and you can make a change in an instant, like right now.
Yeah, right now. And it all starts in the
in the
mind.
mind. And so, yeah, all the stuff. Holy heck, there's so much.
There's so much to
There's so
talk
much,
about.
but it just, yeah, over time.
Over
we'll share
time.
more.
Yeah, we'll share more.
We'll just talk more. Yeah.
So today was a good intro.
Yeah.
Good intro into just, I guess, why we start. Why we're
Yeah,
starting.
and this is our conversations, really. Like, when we're, like, catching up and brainstorming, it's like,
yeah, we didn't even
stuff.
plan today. Today was
No.
like, oh, what's the plan? We'll just talk. Be honest,
talk.
be real.
Yeah, just be us.
And that's it. And as long as we can keep doing that, then I think that's going to be great for other people to hear and you guys to hear as well. So I don't know what I'm talking into. So let's send out a message for like voice messages if people want to send like messages or any questions or topics they want us to cover. It could be anything. It could be anything. There's so many things we could come up with a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
We can chat to some students. I'd love to share some of the student
Student
stories.
stories will amaze you.
Because the student stories here,
and photos and seeing the progressions from the beginning.
where everyone's come from.
Crazy.
I've got to find like those
You've got so many
videos
videos.
in my 54,000 video library, which is full of all the students. But, you know, for people to understand that, hey, everyday people are coming to Beyond Movement. They, you know, start out all the same way, not knowing anything and not being able to do anything, which is also really awesome in itself. The less you can do, the more you'll learn. So it's really cool. Yeah, that's cool. So that's it.
That's it. Our first one
That's
done.
it.
Good job.
Episode 1 done. Guys, we'll see you next week.
That's it.
Awesome.
Amazing. Have a great week.
See ya.